Hello everyone, welcome to the video tutorial on machine learning. So in the last video I have discussed about the backpropagation technique and we have solved one problem where we have applied a backpropagation technique on a neural network to get the target output. We have seen two phases in that backpropagation technique. One is forward pass to calculate the error. Okay, if we have not reached the expected target, then error will be there. So to calculate that error at the output level, we have forward pass. Once that error is there, now we need to remove that error or we need to reduce that error to 0. So what we're going to do is we have to come back and we have to change the weight. So for that we have one more phase that is called as backward pass. So all this algorithm, backpropagation algorithm, was based on a gradient descent which we have discussed in the previous videos. Okay, so now in this video I've been explaining you about the stochastic approximation to gradient descent. So here in the gradient descent we have learned that we need to apply this gradient descent to change the weights, okay, using some formulas. Okay, so once a random weights are assigned by the user, and then we will calculate whether it is reaching to the expected output or not. If the expected output is not reached, then we need to come back and change the weight. So we have some formulas over there to calculate change in weights. Okay, but there exist some problems. For that, to remove that problem or to address that problem, we have certain modification in the gradient descent which is called as the stochastic approximation. Okay, so let us see what is stochastic approximation and what are the problems that we are facing in the gradient descent algorithm. Okay, right. So gradient descent is an important general paradigm for learning. It is a strategy for searching through a large or infinite hypothesis space that can be applied whenever. So we know that gradient descent is an important general paradigm for learning. It is a strategy for searching through a large or infinite hypothesis space that we have learned previously. The hypothesis space contains a continuously parameterized hypothesis where the example is weights. Okay, and then the error can be differentiated with respect to these hypothesis parameters. The key practical difficulties of this gradient descent are converging it to a local minimum can be sometimes be quite slow. Okay, so the meaning is sometimes it may take some hundred thousands of repetition to come to the local minima. What is local minima here? Local minima is the point in the space where exists a less error or there exists a very least or zero error, we can say. Okay, so hence what we are achieving here is by using this gradient descent that if we apply the gradient descent to achieve this gradient descent step or to achieve the local minima where the error is nearly equal to 0, that you have to apply some thousands of steps or 10,000 steps, which is quite a complex. Okay, which is quite complex. So second is, if there are multiple local minima in the error surface, then there is no guarantee that the procedure will find the global minimum. So there is one more difficulty that we are facing in gradient descent is if there are multiple local minimum. Consider 2 points in the graph is having a local minima, that is error is 0, then which point we need to consider to calculate our global minima? For our calculation which point we need to consider, that becomes very difficult. So these are the two problems we are facing while applying the gradient descent. So to address these difficulties, to elevate from these difficulties, we have a technique that is called as incremental gradient descent, or sometimes it is also called as stochastic gradient descent. Okay, so Whereas the gradient descent training rule is presented in the equation 4.7. I'll show you that equation also. 4.7 equation. This one, where it is a summation of the target output minus the output that we have calculated into the input weight. Okay, so this is the gradient descent weight update rule. We are calling it as gradient descent weight update rule. So if you consider this 4.7 with the another equation that we will come with in the gradient descent, that is change in weight is equal to learning rate, that is eta, target minus expected, target minus the output that we have achieved into xi. Okay, so this is the change that we have done from the equation 4.7 to this. We are calling it as equation 4.10. So as you can see here, whereas the gradient descent training rule is presented in the equation 4.7 that we have seen just now, computes the weight update after summing over all the training examples in the D. Alright, yes or no? Look at this, summation is there. Now you check the equation 4.10, this summation is removed. So what happens in the gradient descent? We will calculate all this term after summation. Means we will first take the output values of all our inputs and then we will apply this formula. We will sum up this formula. Okay, that's what he's saying here. So compute the weights after summing over all the training examples in the D. But here we have removed that summation. Okay, so why? Because if we do the summation over here, then we will come up with the multiple local minimas which will not guarantee me to take up the or to find out the global minima. Okay, so for that purpose we will remove the summation from the 4.7 equation. Okay, the idea behind the gradient descent, stochastic gradient descent, is to approximate this gradient descent search by updating weights incrementally. Okay, so previously in gradient descent we are not updating weights incrementally. Okay, it is exponential increase in the weight where it leads to complexity, but here we will update the weights incrementally. So if we do anything incrementally, then we will not face any kind of complexity. Okay, so hence the modified training rule for weight updation is given as like this. So what is the difference between equation 4.7 and 4.10 is summation. We have removed the summation. Okay. Where T is again it is same target value, O is the output that we achieve from our example, and Xi is nothing but the input of ith variable. Input of ith variable. So to modify the gradient descent algorithm of the table, we will implement the stochastic approximation. So what we will do in the algorithm is we will replace that equation 4.1. So here we will replace this equation 4.1 by using this equation. Okay, so because if we apply the same previous one, it becomes gradient descent. Now we are talking about stochastic approximation. So you need to change this. Okay, so change this equation by this one. Okay, right. So one way to view this stochastic gradient descent is to consider distinct error function ED of weight is defined like this. ED of weight equal to half of TD minus OD whole square. Okay, which is nothing but the difference of squared error. Okay, the difference of squared. What difference we will take here? We will take the difference of TD, that is target output, minus OD, that is the output value that we have generated, whole square, and we will take half of that value, which is called as half of the squared error. Half of the squared error. Okay. So here, so stochastic gradient descent iterate for the training example D in this capital D. Capital D is called as data set, whole data set, and D is nothing but a part of that. At each iteration, altering the weights according to the gradient descent with respect to ED of W. So each time we will calculate this ED of W, where we need error to be very minimum, or we need error to be 0. Okay, so till that we will iterate. Once the error is 0, we will stop that and we will take that weight. Okay, so the example provides the reasonable approximation to the gradient descent with respect to our original error function. Okay, so the variation in the gradient descent, where gradient descent we will calculate the output by taking sum of all the inputs, but here we will take it individually. Incrementally we will take it. That's the difference. And we got to know what are the drawbacks or what are the difficulties that we have faced in the gradient descent algorithm. Okay. So let us see the key difference between the standard gradient descent and stochastic gradient descent algorithm or stochastic gradient descent algorithm. In standard gradient descent, the error is sum. Okay, summation we have taken. All these things we have just now discussed. Okay, so the same thing as in this three statements. Summed over all the examples before the weight updates. Whereas in stochastic gradient, we will not take the sum. What we will do is we will take individual. Okay, individually we will examine the and we will update it. Next, second point is summing over the multiple examples in the standard gradient descent requires more computation further. Okay, because we are summing all these weights together, so it requires more computation. But here we are not summing over all the weights. We are taking each step by step. Okay, we are taking it incrementally. So here no more computation or much number of computation is not required. The third is in cases where there are multiple local minima with respect to error, stochastic gradient descent can be sometimes avoid falling into the local minima because it uses the various error function with respect to weight rather than error function with respect to this W to guide the search. So the difference here is, so here we will take the sum up of all the weights. Here we are taking individual weight. That's it. Okay. So both stochastic and standard gradient descent methods are commonly used in practice. So as you can see, this is our error function, and how we have calculated the error in gradient descent is by using this. Okay, look at this. So summation here to calculate the error, which is called as delta of, okay, which is indicated by triangle symbol here. Okay, and this delta of E, where D is not there, that means here we are not taking all the data set. Here we are taking only individual data set. The training rule in the equation 4.10 is called as delta rule. This rule is called as delta rule. Please remember. This is called as delta rule. 4.10 is called as delta rule, where we are updating weight. It is called as delta rule, or sometimes it is also called as LMS, least weight square error rule, or it is called as Adeline rule or Woodrow-Hoff rule. Okay, so 4 names are there. 4.10 equation is called with the 4 names. Notice the delta rule in the equation 4.10 is similar to the perceptron rule in the equation 4.10. You notice this delta rule, which is similar to the perceptron training rule, which I have already explained in the previous videos. Just go through it and you will come. Okay. Alright. So in fact, the two expressions appear to be identical. However, the rules are different because delta rule offers or O, that output refers as a linear unit of output, but whereas the perceptron, that O refers to threshold output. Okay. So look at the difference. If we take the output of delta rule, it is just the weight vector into input vector, but here we are applying threshold by using sine function. Okay. If you want to take the output, we have to apply sine function of the vector, weight vector and input. That's the difference. Okay. Alright. Now we'll see one more topic, that is multi-layer network and the backpropagation algorithm. already we have seen the backpropagation algorithm, but now we will see how to apply backpropagation on the multi-layer. So I will show you the multi-layer neural network. This is the multi-layer network. Okay. So here, as you can see here, as noted in the section 4.4.1, single perceptron can be only express linear diffusion surface. So the perceptron that we have seen, this one, the previous videos, I'll show you. This one is called as single layer perceptron. It's not a multi-layer perceptron. This is a single layer perceptron, which helps us in the application of digital logic, where we can take that single layer perceptron to apply the digital logic or to make a AND gate, OR gate like this. But in contrast, we have to take a multi-layer neural network or multi-layer perceptron, which is learned by backpropagation algorithm, are capable of expressing a rich variety of non-linear decision surfaces. So single layer perceptron is used for linear surface, and this multi-layer perceptron is for non-linear decision surfaces. So example in theory has one. So recognize distinguished 10 possible vowels. Given speech, we have to recognize 10 possible vowels, and all spoken context is H space theta. That means the context, the speech, we have started with the letter H and ended with the letter D. In between, you can write any kind of letters, okay, and it should be correct. For example, HEAD, head, HAD. So we have to write only vowels here in between H and D. So how many possible words are there? Maybe you can write 5, 10 or 15 possible words. That's the meaning. So some words are written here like this. So it starts with H, D. So I can write it, had, food. Okay, this kind of words. The input speech signal is represented by two numerical parameters obtained from a spectral analysis of sound. Okay, speech progression. We have taken that kind of project, and for that project or for that examination of this speech progression, we have taken few numerical parameters, allowing us to easily visualize the decision surface over the two-dimensional space. As shown in the figure, it is possible for a multi-layer network to represent highly non-linear decision surface that are much more expressive than the linear decision surface of a single unit shown in the earlier figure. So as you can see here, this is the multi-layer perceptron. As I said, here we will take two parameters, input parameters. One is F1, another one is F2, and we have multi-layers of hidden layers are there, multi-hidden layers are there, and these are the output that we get. So what we will do here is, we first give the speech input from these two variables or for these two inputs. Okay, maybe we will give some length of speech or 2 bits or 3 bits of speech, where I want to find out the words which start with H, ends with D, but in between that we need vowels on. Okay, so for that what we will do is we will give the speech signal over here, which is divided into two inputs, that is F1 and F2, which is obtained from the spectral analysis of the sound. So first we will do spectral analysis of the sound. Then this hidden network, it will take 10 possible vowel sounds from this speech. Okay, and that will be again given to the output. So the output output will be calculated based on the highest values. Okay, highest value of the spectrum value, and then it will give the output like this. So 90% of time we will get the accurate result which starts with the H and end with the D, and in between we will have the vowels. But sometimes you can see here, sometimes it may give the wrong result also. Okay, so again we require some more training for this network to find out the correct thing. Okay, correct output. So this kind of work is done by two of the scientists of neural network, that is Hank and Lippmann, in the year 1988, and they end up with some 95% of this. Okay, and they have used multi-layer perceptron to do this task. So this is about the multi-layer perceptron. So what it tries to tell you that, so from single layer perceptron you cannot get the non-linear digital. You want some non-linear digital surface where the results are very complex. To obtain the result becomes very complex. In such cases, you can apply multi-layer neural network. Okay, so coming to the last part of this module, that is differentiated threshold unit. We have seen in the example of perceptron, so where to get the output, we have applied the threshold function. This is called as threshold function, and we got the output by applying the threshold value, that is sine. Okay, that we have already seen. So I'll show you how we have obtained the output of the neural network by using single layer neural network. We got the output by using like this. Output is equal to sine w vector and x vector. This is the output, that is it is called as thresholded output. So what we have taken there, we have taken a threshold unit. So here we will see differentiable threshold unit. What we can do, or what is undifferentiable and what is differentiable. At first we might be tempted to choose the linear units discussed in the previous section, for we have already derived a gradient descent. Okay, so for the previous examples where we have applied the gradient descent tool to derive the threshold. However, for multi-layer neural network of cascaded linear units still produce only linear function, and we prefer network capable of representing highly non-linear function. Okay, so we have already seen the example of this multi-layer perceptron, so multi-layer network for detection of the words which start with H and ends with the in between that we should have vowels. Okay, so now he is telling that for linear function we have applied the threshold unit and we got the output. How about the non-linear functions? Can we apply the same threshold unit for this, or we have to change the threshold unit so that we have to get the output? That is called as differentiated or differentiable threshold. Okay. For single layer perceptron we already have gradient descent and we have applied it and we got the result. What for multi-layer? That's what this trying to tell here. So one function we can apply here, one threshold function that we can apply here is sigmoid function. Okay, so you already know about sigmoid function, which I have explained in the previous video. Okay, in the perceptron example, basic unit of perceptron. So here is the sigmoid unit. It is here where O is the output, and this is called a sigmoid function. Previously it was not there. Now previously it was sine function. We have applied a sine function to get the output in the single layer perceptron. Okay, now we have to change it because we are applying it for non-linear function, that is multi-layer perceptron. So sine threshold unit has changed as sigmoid threshold. Okay, this is the difference now. So this we are applying here to the perceptron, multi-layer perceptron, and this is another formula. Sigmoid of y equal to 1 divided by 1 plus e raised to y. Okay, this sigmoid of y, how we will calculate this? This we will calculate by using this formula 4.1. Okay. So here sigma is the often called as sigmoid function, as I told, it is called as sigmoid function, and sine is called as a sine function. Okay, or alternatively a logistic function. It is also called as logistic function. Note its output ranges from 0 to 1. Please note down the output of this sigmoid function varies monotonically. Monotonically means it is in between 0 to 1. Okay, so because it maps to a very large input domain to the small range of outputs, it is often referred as squashing function of the unit. Okay, because we are applying this sigmoid for very large input domain and to get very small range of output, it is called as squashing. Squashing is nothing but reducing. Okay, because we applied for large domain, input domain, and we are taking it for small range. So hence it is called as squashing. And this, if we apply the derivative on this sigmoid function, we will get the result like this: sigmoid of y dot 1 minus sigmoid of y. Okay, so here in this differentiated threshold unit, we have seen which kind of threshold we have applied for single layer perceptron and which kind of function we have to apply, threshold unit we have to apply for multi-layer. For single layer, sine threshold; for sine function; for multi-layer, sigmoid function. So this ends the third module. I have uploaded all the videos of third module and I have explained each and every point of third module. Along with that, I have uploaded the PPT also, and I am sure that you will go through all the videos and PPTs. And if you have any doubts, you write that doubt and we will discuss that doubt in the discussion.